The River Stour in Canterbury sets the scene for the first chapter in a musical journey through the history of British religious song. In this series, we travel from the music of the Middle Ages to the techno-rock of modern Christian pop. Our story starts 1400 years ago in the mists of time. The year is 597, and a few miles upriver from Canterbury, Augustine has just landed in what was then the Kingdom of Kent. Augustine was Rome's mightiest missionary, and his aim was to convert the English tribes to Christianity. His weapons were faith and song. Music was at the heart of Augustine's mission, but little did he know that his Plainchant would shape all English music to come. Canterbury became the centre of medieval Christian Britain, a mighty abbey filled with the sound of new converts singing the rolling phrases of Gregorian chant, music invented to structure worship by Pope Gregory the Great, the man who had sent Augustine on his mission. Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury, and the hymns and chants that he and his monks had brought with them laid the foundations for much of music as we know it today. To them, their music just served the one purpose: to lift their hearts, minds and voices up towards heaven. And that's how plainsong was to develop, lifting the soul with great arches of sound, just like the buildings in which it was to be sung. The monks must have been thrilled to sing in these great spaces and to hear the sound of their own voices coming back in the echo. Alleluia, Alleluia. The music that has filled these sacred spaces has resonated down the centuries and in the lives of Christians past and present, as singer and actress Toyah Willcox knows well.
I think you instinctively sense that the building is alive. I always think music, because it resonates, gives the architecture a quality. I think that's why churches are so fantastic, because I think they're powerhouses. I love all religious music. I could just sit in a church and cry my eyes out. I don't know why, but even as a child, when I was singing your pretty basic hymns like All Things Bright and Beautiful, and if we were lucky, we got to sing Jerusalem, you know, kind of Easter time and stuff like that. It kind of really made me well up inside, incredibly emotionally provocative and evocative, and kind of made you think about things. It's really inspiring.
And what about early church music?
What, the Gregorian chant?
Yeah.
Well, my husband plays Gregorian chant all day long.
Really?
I don't know if you want to know this, but I have a very large pet rabbit who responds so intelligently to Gregorian chant.
What does he do?
He sits by the speakers and his little ears are going like radar. So he hears Gregorian chant and he runs in the house and sits by the speakers. So I think that's rather magical. What it does for me, I like to just kind of relax and listen to it, and these staggering harmonic relationships. And it is uplifting. It's definitely a spiritual experience to listen to Gregorian chant.
Plainchant was at the very heart of the medieval monastic way of life. Here at Rievaulx Abbey in Yorkshire, the Cistercian brothers ordered their days with the singing of divine services, just like monks all over the Christian world. The mighty monastery resounded with the sound of the choir, which met 11 times throughout the day and night to offer prayer and praise through ethereal singing. The singers were the superstars of every religious community. At Rievaulx, a choir of 140 monks was served by 500 other brothers who laboured to ensure that nothing came between the singers and their God. They generated a vast income as rich patrons tried to buy redemption through song and guarantee themselves a place in heaven. The monks used the rhythms and melodies of plainsong for practical as well as spiritual reasons. Pope Gregory had developed this method of chanting because he realised that song was an excellent way of teaching the brothers the long and difficult liturgies they had to master, rather like learning divine nursery rhymes. And of course, Christianity's own roots were planted in the musical traditions of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew who sang psalms with his disciples and worshipped in synagogues, where chanting had been used for centuries to help people understand the sacred texts.
Yoshev petach ha'ohel chechom hayom vayisa einav vayar vehinei shelosha anashim vayar Vayaratz likratam mi petach haohel.
The music wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. And it wasn't really tunes, it was much more like a form of chanting. If you take a scroll, which is a scroll of the old scriptures, it hasn't got chapter divisions, it hasn't got commas and full stops, it hasn't got any punctuation, it hasn't even got the vowels, clearly A, E, I, O, U. And so how do you read it? Chanting was very important because that phrased it, it separated sentences, it gave you the vowels, and it emphasized what was important. So this chanting of the scrolls is very, very, very old, and this was essential for the Jews, and was essential also to Christians too. You can hear that relationship between early synagogue and church. For example, late one night, I turned on the radio and I listened to this gorgeous Jewish music. And I suddenly thought to myself, I don't recognize it. And then I tried to listen to the words, Hebrew or Aramaic, but I couldn't quite figure them out. And then, of course, when the announcer came on, it wasn't Jewish music. It was Eastern Orthodox Christian music. But the relationship was still so strong that I felt myself in the same world. You know, I could tell that long, long ago we must have come from a common source. The ways eventually started separating, just as the synagogues and churches started separating. I think Christian music tended to become rather angelic. You know these beautiful soaring things of Gregorian chant. It's rather like the singing of angels.
Isn't it the imagery of pointing you upwards, so to speak?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's rather like the Gothic churches with their architecture pointing upwards. But the answer is, hear it for yourself.
Today, Plainchant continues to lift the gaze of monks and nuns towards heaven. At Stanbrook Abbey in Worcester, the Benedictine sisters live a life which is still structured by song. Benedictine nuns stay in the same convent for life. They dedicate themselves to prayer and worship, maintaining the rhythm and traditions of centuries of faith through song. Their plainchant for Palm Sunday was written in the 8th century and is still a hauntingly powerful instrument of worship. If you want to talk to God, singing is the ideal means of expression. The power of song is that it can communicate ideas and emotions in a far more exciting and intense way than mere speech.
Well, singing comes from within. It's something I feel I have to do. I certainly couldn't live without singing. I think my spirit would die if I didn't. I've always said, and it might sound pretentious, but acting is my craft and singing is the breath of my spirit. It's something I've got to do, whether I'm in the bathroom or on the street. It's not anymore for me a commercial venture. Singing is very important to my spiritual growth.
I wonder what St. Augustine would have made of all this. It's 1400 years since he first crossed those marshes in Kent. And today, his music is now available to everyone via the CD. So what's so special about plaint song? Well, it's timeless, it's inspirational, and above all, it points us towards the Almighty. But in musical terms, it still remains a simple, single-line melody. So join me next week as we pass the next great musical milestone. Harmony is born.